Assalamu alaikum, fam. Hope you're doing well. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So, I wanted to talk to you today about how secular, liberal, feminists, atheists try to frame modesty as something oppressive. Now, I have a unique insight into this because I grew up, in the 90s when there was a different style of debauchery because of MTV, Disney, BET, and other networks that really focused on promoting musicians who wrote songs that encouraged nudity, bad behavior, and rebelling against one's parents. So, I want you to understand that if you're hating your niqab, you're in another country where you're being modest. I would argue that if you came to America, you would start to see the mental illness, the diseased mind of some of the women who are entirely addicted to the male gaze, to where the point, even when they're in their 40s, they're still paying doctors to slice them up like a pork and tighten them up as much as possible because they still want to, sleep with young men and they haven't settled down. And they're on Percocets and they drink Chardonnay on the weekends and they're hyper obsessed with wrinkles and dyeing their gray hairs that pop out. You essentially, is my point, wouldn't feel like you're around spiritual people, but rather really inverted minds. As someone who was around all kinds of women and got to experience the transformation of thinking nudity was freedom instead of modesty, I can say that Islam has given me a different perspective on it. And I want you to know how judgmental a lot of American women are. There is a high competitiveness to put everything artificial. And because of this, you will now meet women who have fake eye colors through contacts, fake eyelashes, literally painting on their eyebrows, wearing extensions or a wig, okay? And they have so much makeup on. They have injected Botox, in their face, and they had a lip job. They are a very constructed thing because they don't like who they are naturally when they step out of the shower. And because they've been passed around from man to man, and their ego has been stunted and chained to getting rejected over and over by random hookups from different apps, they think they're free, when in fact, they're far from that. They have a deep attachment to their figure in the mirror. The figure in the mirror, it's like a separate self of them. A lot of these girls, they don't even like who they are and they apologize for what they look like when they're not all done up. And the behavior of them changes once they are all done up. They think they're supermodels, they're more mean, they're more vicious. They think somehow they are a superhero who can now step on the balls of men and make them lick their toes. Their ego and their meanness and their sharpness and their coldness really comes out. There's something to be said about a woman in the country, barefoot outside in the garden, pregnant in her pretty dress and her wonderful children running around, than the Prada shoe woman who has her breasts all the way out almost, and who is constantly enticing and speaking of sexual things at work to the men, and only can get them to obey through lust. And then there is something to be said about the women who they have to sleep with men in order to feel validated, the ugly duckling girls. And the ugly duckling girls are the girls who look up to the pimptresses and think, I have to emulate her and I have to be like her. And if I don't, then I'm somehow backwards. I'm somehow not really a woman. And they've twisted and inverted femininity into a cosplay costume that looks like a clown and looks more witchy, like you belong in a coven. And as these women get worse and worse in their meanness, and worse in their own personal delusions of the mirror, and addicted to the hand of the magician plastic surgeon, you see their eyebrows become more narrow, their makeup becomes darker, their eyeliner becomes thicker, their noses become more pointier, and they just have a very unloving energy. An energy that sounds and feels like something that wouldn't be safe around a baby, probably hates the sound of a baby, and would probably sleep with your man while you're at work. This may sound mean, but I'm saying it how I have seen it. I'm not saying that's not possible in other countries for women who have to cover, but I would say that the extreme competition for the male gaze doesn't create a friendly environment. And when I've worked with all women who are all very beautiful, they're horrible to each other. Absolutely horrible. You would think they'd have a sisterhood, but no, it's all competing to which man will obey me, and then women getting jealous over who the man obeys at work compared to the others, and who he talks to the most, and all the weird games, even though all of them have boyfriends, and even though the man is married. There's a very strange type of atmosphere that arises through the constant vision of the flesh. Now, I've met some women who try to pretend that when they show their bodies, it's the same as the tribal women in the safari who are hunting, have a baby on their back, and maybe you see their breast or something. That's Aborigines. They have maybe a different energy. Can't speak about them, I don't know them, but I can tell you the American nudity is not like the Aborigines in Africa, any part of Africa, or Australia for that matter. The nudity here is strictly pornographic, occultic, and twisted and inverted. And it's so inverted that even Christian women, some of them now, will show their breasts. You can see their camel toe on their yoga pants. They've lost all sense of their traditional modesty of the dresses. If you see how the art has changed of their culture, you'll see that, wow, this is totally bad. And even certain men who call themselves Christian will watch country music videos where girls are doing highly inappropriate things, and they're lusting for those, immodest women in front of their wives, and these people still think they're spiritual, right? So your beautiful Islamic clothing is something to live up to. It's something of grace, something that you should be proud of and love and have honor for it. And I don't think that you should envy anything of the materialism, the vain elements, the plastic surgery addictions of America, because the women here are heavily medicated, heavily barren, and heavily into abortion. So remember, you being modest, even if you are someone who doesn't really wear the traditional clothing, or you only do it once in a while, at least wearing loose sweatpants or something like that, that is still a step. Even if, let's say, you work at a grocery store and there's a work uniform and you at least wear the hijab, that is something. And don't covet the girls who have purple hair, blue hair, and you're looking at them like, oh geez, and you think all their makeup is somehow more attractive than your natural face. No. See, those women during a natural disaster are going to have not only a difficult time in the disaster, but they're going to have a hard time looking at their own reflection when all their beautification devices are taken away. And you have to love who you are naturally. A lot of women claim they do, but you have to wonder, do you really love what you look like, and are you confident the same without all that money you spend and all the time you take to put it on? And you doing wudu, getting your face wet 5 times a day, and having that natural glow on your face, not the bronzer that, the other ladies put on to mask it, is something you should be proud of. Because your natural energy and glow from your face, that is something way more real than these very strange creations that are coming from this heavily, heavily vain society. The fact that what it means to be a woman has been reduced to makeup and plastic surgery is the reason why our biology, our essence as women, the institution of women, our place in society has been eroded by a rainbow mafia, where they have diluted and degraded and risen up Frankensteins in place of what the Creator has made on earth. So know that your modesty is not a tool of oppression. Know that the only reason why they want you unrevealed is for pornographic, lust-filled debauchery. That's what it always has been. Even since the Renaissance time, when they started getting more and more nude people. Look in the Catholic Church and the Sistine Chapel, there's a lot of nudity. The lustfulness creeped in because the male desire to see flesh and the women wanting to be stared at. It caused huge moral corruption. Huge moral corruption. And yes, I understand people can still do things even though they're modestly covered up, right? It's not some magic cloak that makes you perfect and invisible. But rather, I'd say saving your body for your partner and not being addicted to showing everybody your butt crack through your tight pants and showing everyone your rolls of fat and cellulite. Spare people the eyes. Not everyone should have to look at you. And sometimes you gotta wonder if these women ever wondered in their mind, like, why do you want to make strangers horny? Why does your psychology depend upon, fat, bald men in CVS staring at your butt cheeks while you're in front of them in line? Why do you need that? And if you say, I don't need it, well, then ask, well, why are you doing that so they can see it? Well, it's because, it's comfortable. Well, actually, tight clothes cause more yeast infections. Why do you have to have those tight clothes all the time? What is it that makes you feel ugly simply because you have loose fabric? Why is your self-esteem so fragile and so broken by clever marketing propagandists and psychologists so that you buy? Why is that? And I know some women will say, well, beautification is totally good. Yeah, for your husband at home. If you're going to have your special night with him, sure. I just really want you to think about how the liberals don't want the best for you. Liberals here made films like Cuties on Netflix where little girls were sexualized. They want you as a product. They don't really care about your religious virtue. They don't have the same values as you. So if they want to ban your hijab and call it oppression, you have to see that they want to undress you. When you become undressed, there's a piece of you that, sees your skin as something alien at a certain point. But then there's something pretty pathetic about a person who has to constantly show their flesh. It's really strange. It really makes you think about Adam and Eve and the desire to clothe themselves. But they have made rebellion fun. And the men have become so piggish that they can't help but be someone with their hands constantly in their pants. They're very hedonistic. They're like snorting pigs who can't handle, a modest woman. So if you are struggling to be modest, I would highly encourage you to examine the mental illness that resides within women who are constantly naked, and how they are so addicted to being stared at that they really become these strange alien-like weirdos who smile a certain way. They crumble if you say they don't like their nose. They are people who really self-mutilate themselves physically and mentally and spiritually. It's really interesting, you'll see a girl who's very fat, but she has a lot of makeup on and long nails and she thinks she's sexy, but she could just go on a diet, be all natural, get in shape, and she'd probably be more beautiful and covered up in a nice loose gown. But again, they've inverted women to the point where they're overweight, they shouldn't show it, and they have adorned themselves in a way that's not fit. But they don't allow you to say that now. They don't allow you to fat shame or tell people to get healthy. And then the people who are healthy, they do unhealthy things with makeup and plastic surgery and use Photoshop. There's a reason why they say that Instagram has destroyed minds of women. Why OnlyFans has destroyed relationships. Why pornography has made men unable to get erections, because they're constantly satiated with different fetishes and different images of flesh in their mind repeatedly throughout the day. And you have to wonder, do you want to be a part of that? Don't let them use you like a dairy cow. Don't let these women covered in mud and sin and evil and wretchedness, who are on their fast track to hellfire and who don't want redemption, who probably have STDs, who are addicts, who are lonely, who have father issues, don't have a loving mother, and who only care about money and looks and perfume and material objects. Don't let them degrade you down. Don't let them take out your morality. And if you're struggling to start on the journey to modesty, I'd say keep going. And if you feel weird whenever you see these cold, vain, vapid women and they giggle at you or something, hold your head properly and just, alhamdulillah, keep going. Because there are people who will look up to you, regardless of if they say it to you or not. Don't think that the feminist liberal atheists want the best for you because they want you to get their penises hard or their clitorises hard. And I'm going to say it like that because that's what it is. They want to have something to look at. And sure, you may think, oh, that's what I want. That sounds fun for me. But a lot of trouble can come from entertaining the wrong gaze. And feminist, atheist, liberals hate it when you say that. But cover yourself, be modest, carry yourself well, avoid being alone with men and lesbians and bisexual women, and do your thing. Study, be good, and appreciate your modesty. Okay? Don't feel like you're missing out. You're not missing out. You're purposely making you missing on their menu. And that's pretty awesome. I'm telling you, a lot of those women, they are not these kind, nurturing women that you would think they are. The more they're into their own make-up face, the meaner and more vicious and backstabby they become. Many of them. And if you notice, those women will also insult each other and tell each other, you're ugly this, or your eyebrows are weird, or la 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 la. They never insult a woman based on substance, on character, but on beauty. They almost are trapped within this sort of commercialized spirituality and think that the only way a man will have value in them is if they spend hours and hours on makeup. So I would argue, keep going, keep learning, and modesty is not a punishment. Modesty is beautiful. It's such an amazing thing to behold in a time where people let it all hang out for strangers. All hang out for anything. A dog, someone high on crack is looking at your girlfriend's booty hole. They think that's grace. They think that's honor. It's before you know it, as many have said, these people will be in the street like dogs. And in Los Angeles and in many parts of California, they do that. The prostitute, drug addict women who feminists say are liberated sexually will be servicing guys next to a bus stop in front of kids and under liberal leadership, and they see that as empowering. Legalize all drugs, sexual liberation, freedom, F the patriarchy. Look what they've done. Avoid them. Avoid them. Don't let somebody take off your pants, take off your modesty. Because once they do, they're going to watch what happens to you and not even care. Many will be upset by what I'm saying. But if you just sit back and think, you'll begin to see what I'm saying. If you're in high heels, a mini skirt with your boobs hanging out, drunk, walking down the street alone, that's not good. That's not good. The more you give people to see, the more stimulated and the more they stare. The more negative, evil eye energy, man, you got coming at you. The more, I hate this lady. You know? You should not get self-esteem from having other women's husbands fantasize about you. If you only get power by tempting married women's men, you have a black heart and you are sick. And if you only get power from showing everyone your cleavage, I'd say maybe you should get a higher self-esteem. Because your boobs are going to sag, and you're going to have to find something else to do than showing the world your saggy boobs. Nothing is more disgusting to me than seeing an old grandma with her tits hanging out while I'm trying to eat a salad. It's really disgusting. So don't be like those chicks because they don't end well. Be modest. Lead the charge. Be proud of yourself. I'm proud of you. If you're modest, doing the best you can, mashallah, keep going, fam. Cover your bum bum. If you still wear those tight yoga pants, at least wear a shirt that covers your bum bum so they can't see too much of your beauty. Conceal your beauty. It's freaking pretty cool, man. Take pride in that. Cover it up. That's all. That's awesome. That's more difficult to do. Do what's difficult and honorable, not what's easy and something that will incur the wrath of Allah upon you. And Jewish women and Christian women used to be modest. But who took it over? The occultists through networks on television and musicians. Don't be like them.